indoor work, outdoor work, work with the animals, work on the grounds, a lot of different things going on at Shavers Creek. And so the contact there is Doug Wenzel. His email address is there. And if you don't know if you qualify for work study, it doesn't, just inquire if you're interested. So please take note of Doug's email address. If you need this information again later, just drop me a note and I can send it to you, or just take a quick screenshot if you think that that's something that might interest you, either now for summer or in the fall in the coming school year. So that's an opportunity for you. It's pretty fun to be out and about doing some different things. The first 30 seconds. So apparently we weren't, it didn't translate on YouTube. So mostly it was just a welcome and a moment to take in breathing, becoming fully present here at this moment. And then I was talking about opportunities. These announcements are all about opportunities for you, depending how you'd like to spend your time. This one is work study at Shavers Creek. There are a multitude of opportunities. You can contact Doug Wenzel at that email address. He's very good about replying quickly. And even if you don't know if you qualify for work study, you can reach out to Doug and he will help you navigate the system. So that's the first thing. Second thing is tonight is our extra credit movie worth 5 points. Come to my Zoom and I'll be showing the movie, and there will be some TAs facilitating conversations after the movie. In order to get the 5 points, you watch the movie and stay for the conversation, actually participate in the conversation. So that's an opportunity for you. This Sunday, April 18th, is the field experience. It's our outdoor lab that's happening this week. You'll spend a good portion of your Sunday outside, and then you'll find the details for this under the assignment in Canvas. There are some specifics about ways to be outside, some suggestions, some ideas if there are things that, that you'd like to explore outside. This is a great opportunity. You'll then be meeting with your lab group at 7 o'clock on Sunday evening. So there's no lab on Friday, April 16th. So it's a good idea now to look over the assignment and see what the choices are, so that you're really ready to go on Sunday. It involves listening to a blog, a writing piece, and then being outside. So the whole assignment is worth 4 points for you to participate and be part of this field experience. Also coming up, the final big assignment for BISI is the Ecological Identity Project. So if you've looked ahead or if you've seen in the syllabus, this is all about thinking about how you connect, you, specifically you, not humans as a species, but you as you yourself. How do you connect to Earth? How are you part of Earth? What does that mean? What part of Earth do you connect with? Do you associate with? Do you feel comfortable with? When do you experience those feelings of connection with the natural world around you? So really taking time to reflect on this. And then using all of what's in you, your head and your heart and your gut, create the final project. It could be something that you record. It could be you writing and reading a poem. It could be a dance piece. It could be you demonstrating your connection in a way, teaching others. It could be you drawing or painting. It could be any kind of connection that you feel, any kind of demonstration of that connection. It's something that then you will be presenting at your week 15 lab. So I really want this to be a place for you to be creative and to play, to find some connection, find some relationship in the world, with the world around you. So that is the Ecological Identity Project. Please ask your TAs about it if you have questions about what you should be doing. The point is that it's very open to what you being you, you expressing you. The Ecological Identity Project is worth 6 points. It's something that I really feel as though has been very transformative and connective for people in the past, for students. And so I really encourage you to dive in to how are you part of Earth? What are your connections? All right, and so I think that those are all of the announcements at this point, and we're ready to dive into class today. Before we really begin, we're going to take a moment of mindfulness. So I'm going to ring a bell, and then in a little while, I'll ring the bell again when the time is going to stop. And in between the first and second bell, I want you to really reflect on your being. Where is your mind? What is the state of your body? What are you doing? What's happening up here? What's happening in here? So, really being mindful for that period of time. So, here comes the first bell. This will be our trial run. So, it's a practice of mindfulness. What is your mind doing? What is your body doing? Where is their anxiety? Where is there a sense of being settled? Just becoming attentive to what's happening for you. I'm going to try to make that happen 3 more random times over the course of this class. Again, the bell will ring once. We'll all become still and mindful. And then the bell will ring again and we'll proceed. So this is where we left off on Monday. The idea that our bodies, our ribs expand because we are flexible. Our minds are also flexible and changeable. And yet, just like with any study of art or music or science or sport, it requires practice. Requires practice to be flexible in mind and body. Just like this mindfulness bell, it's about coming aware into awareness of ourselves, how we are thinking, why we were thinking that, what are we going to do about our thoughts? It takes practice. And so today's topic of slowing down to fall ahead, it too takes awareness and practice and practice and practice and practice. So this is where we left off with the idea of the green triangle. So my premise is that whenever you do something that's good for one of them, then you'll also inevitably do something that's good for the other too. whether you're hoping to or not, really. So let's suppose I am going to take a step to improve my health, like eating less red meat and less dairy. So that's going to improve my health because it's going to decrease my risk of circulatory disease. It may even make me stronger and give me more endurance. But since meat and dairy products are relatively expensive, I'll save some money. And then, moreover, I'm not going to be using those resources from the environment. So it's better for the environment too. But the interesting thing is that I can start at any point of this triangle. And so let me think, if I'm really going out to do something that's beneficial for the environment, maybe walking or bicycling instead of driving my car as often. So I'm going to cut down my pollution and emissions. I'm going to reduce the chance of smog and lung damage for other people. I'm going to decrease acid rain. And so I'm also going to help my health because I'm going to be getting more exercise. And I'm also going to save money on oil and gas and car expenses. And then some people are skeptical about good things stemming from being thrifty, not spending as much money. Um, it used to be a really strong American virtue that has somehow gone out of style to be thrifty. But the third point of the triangle is just as potent. So anytime I do something that's good for my wallet, like not buying an expensive gizmo of some sort, electronics, whose manufacturing spends a lot of energy and uses a lot of raw materials, or maybe I'm not going to take that trip that I was thinking about because that uses a lot of gasoline and um, atmospheric pollution and noise. So I'm also helping the earth if I'm choosing to not, spend my money on those things. I'm also going to help the environment. So, and then I'm also probably going to save my health because I'm less stressed out about the money that I'm spending. And also, not using that gizmo gives me more time and attention for other human beings. And it allows for that time of spontaneous play and relaxation that I need. So, I'd like you to take a moment and dive in with your group. It's just going to be for about 2 minutes about what you think about this concept of the green triangle. So take 2 minutes to talk about this. So, this is something to consider as you're moving through your days and making choices. The last three classes have been about food and shelter and transportation. Um, how can we lower our footprint and work less, have more fun, be more free and creative, and become more fully human? And so we're going to continue this theme, but in a different kind of way. So the next classes are going to be about, today is slowing down. I, we're going to do identity, we're going to do creativity and freedom next week as we work toward wrapping things up for this semester. There are a lot of things that we have yet to consider. So my question today is, how can we possibly slow down and live in the current life story? And this, of course, takes reflection. So I need you to think about your story. We'll go back to the words, as we have often done in this class. I like words and connotations, how things mean different things to different people. So take a minute in your group, whether you want to put these in the chat or whether you'd like to talk about them. Please participate in this conversation about what being slow means to you and what being fast or busy means to you. Um, it's a dualistic sort of thing. So take a moment to wrestle with this. So I can see from some of your answers that the you're really varied in what you are thinking about these words. So some of you are saying slow means taking it easy and not worrying about the little things. Slow to some of you means measured and careful. Slow to some of you means unproductive or lazy. Um, and for some of you, fast is tense. For some of you, fast is productive. Um, fast means rushed. So it's interesting how these words can mean different things to different people, and how that translates then Somebody said slow is about being patient. Slow is comfort, fast is stressed. So, lots of different ways that we think about these things. In our culture, many people, and I'm not saying all of you, but many people think busy is better, faster is better, more is better, doing is better, winning is better, the future is better, money means success, constant control is better, busy means money. Um, and so let's think about how that plays out in our daily lives. There's this in our culture. Back in the day, people used to visit each other, uh, really spontaneously. It was like knock on the door and see if anybody's home, and go in and have a cup of lemonade and hang out together. And it was a very personal experience. It was the choice for how we connected with people. And then, oh, take a moment of mindfulness. And then, when telephones became popular or more common, people called each other to hear each other's voices. You know, you could hear tone and inflection, and we still do some of that today. Um, that tone can say more than the words sometimes that people are saying. And so now it's so easy to text. It's so easy to text, and it, in fact, I'm not being critical, I'm pointing out the evolution of this. In fact, I like texting sometimes. It feels efficient to me. But as I was preparing this class, I realized that I prefer to text, because I'm not very good on the phone. I'm not a good phone person because it slows me down sometimes from things that I need to be doing or want to be doing. And so it was just a really interesting reflection for me how often I text instead of calling. I am a big fan of visiting, and I do that pretty intentionally. But it was an interesting discovery for me about text over phone. I'm not a phone person at all. What about connection to our food? People used to cook over a fire. It was a very intentional, very mindful, it involved planning, preparation. And now we have stoves and ovens where we can, and then there's the microwave, which is even faster. So the mindfulness of our food and the food preparation has changed over time. So, evolution and advancement of technology, that's amazing and wonderful in some ways. Um, in some ways, it's also disconnecting us by not taking that time. In some cases, we're losing track of life. It's just important to be mindful of our choices and where our story comes from. So, I'd like to have you talk about this. Where did your impressions of fast and slow come from? Where is it that you really have gotten those connotations, those meanings? Where is it that those origins of that part of your story have come from? So take a couple minutes in your group to talk about that. How did you come to So just thinking about where that story, the origin of those thoughts, those beliefs come from. I've shown this already in class, but I think that it's pretty striking. I think that it comes from a place of disconnect, and maybe this is the result of being busy sometimes. Um, so let's break it down. Why? Why are we busy? Um, it's thinking about your thinking, metacognition. Why am I busy? Why can I feel so overwhelmed? I first became aware of this plight of busy. It was over 20 years ago when I was helping to interview for interns at Shavers Creek. Um, and one of the questions is, what do you enjoy doing with your free time? And 95% of the candidates that we talked to would laugh at this question. Free time? I don't have free time. I guess if I have free time, maybe I hang out with my friends, watch movies. Um, but that response of I don't have free time implies busyness. So why? Why are we so busy? So there are expectations of being busy. You know, the number of times I run into somebody when I used to be on campus, this is one of the delights of not being on campus, is that people in the Mueller building, hey Jen, how's it going? You know, are you keeping busy? And well, yeah, I guess it's, and maybe answering, yeah, it's a really hectic kind of time. It's, and how that conversation goes. How many times have you had that conversation of, yeah, I'm just so busy. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm feeling crazy right now. It seems to me that it's almost a badge of honor or living up to somebody else's expectations of you're a student, you should be busy. But really, is that how it's supposed to be? And this busy is almost like a contest. It starts at such an early age now with kids who are expected to play instruments and be in sports and being the drama club and sing and play chess and all of those clubs so that you can have those on your resume so that you can get into a good college. If you can show that you are busy, that you've done a lot of things, then you're more likely to get in, more likely to get a scholarship if you've spent your time being busy. What about this? The habit of being busy. So sometimes I fall into this category because life just feels like it's moving at such a quick pace that I create these to-do lists like this that are completely unrealistic in some ways. And yet it's a habit. There must be always something to do. As soon as I get those things checked off, then I add more things so that I can just, keep on moving around. Um, my story is that I must be busy. There's always something to be done. But really? Hmm, that's interesting. What about destination addiction? We've talked about this a little bit. Being in class so that you can finish class, like, oh, 50 minutes, got to get moving on to the next thing. Being in college to finish college, being in your internship to check off that little box of the internship, being in an apartment. So sometimes, sometimes you can, someday you'll have a house. We've all mentioned this before. Somebody just pointed out that how we all claim to be busy, but then if you look at your daily screen time, are we really as busy as we think we are? How are we choosing to spend our time? What about this? The fear of slowing down. What does this mean? Can anybody relate to this? So, my story is that there's always something to be done. That checklist has to be long so that I can stay on top of things. My fear is that if I slow down, then I'm going to get behind. Then I'm going to get slammed by something that I should have been doing. That's one of my fears of slowing down. Another fear of slowing down that I've experienced is that What happens if I slow down and then I discover something that I should be thinking about that's hard? What if I slow down and and discover something that I didn't want to see? So if I stay busy, I can numb myself. I can numb those feelings of vulnerability that accompanying the unsettling truths about my life. So if I stay busy, I can ignore all that bad stuff. I don't have to face that vulnerable place if I don't slow down. So there could be a fear in a lot of ways. Those are my two. Maybe other people have experienced other ways, fears about slowing down. What about fear of missing out? Defined as anxiety that an exciting or interesting event might be currently happening elsewhere and that you're not there. This is definitely fueled by social media, the fear of missing out. Maybe you're afraid to miss out on something and then you choose to go, which then makes your schedule more full. Maybe you could have been chilling out, or maybe there was a paper that you should have been writing, could have been writing, but then later on you have to be more busy because you had to go to this thing because you were afraid of missing out on it. Is it really what you need? What happens when we think about from moment to moment what we need? Fear of missing out takes us out of the present moment. There can also be an addiction to being busy, a very biological addiction to being busy. So, cortisol is the fight or flight hormone that influences and regulates our bodies. We've talked about it before. Our body is regulated by these responses of this hormone. And so, when stress is felt, the cortisol goes up, and that will influence our blood sugar and our immune responses, our blood pressure, and how our central nervous system is working. And so when the cortisol levels remain high, then it sets this new normal for the body. It's like it's that feeling of being on the edge. So if I'm busy, I can be on the edge all the time. I can have that little internal hormonal high going on, except that what's happening is that my body is starting to get used to that. So then I need a little bit more and a little bit more. Do you see how it can be an addiction? The stress response can be activated so often that the body doesn't have time to recover, doesn't have time to chill out from that high of that cortisol. And this is what leads to adrenal fatigue. That's when the adrenal glands that are releasing that cortisone, they get exhausted and unstable, maybe unable to produce adequate quantities of hormones, which then can lead to fatigue and inflammation and sleep disruption, poor healing, poor digestion. And so it can be this place where we're making ourselves so unhealthy because of our own bodies and their reactions to our busyness. So those are 6 different ways or reasons why we feel as though we need to be so busy. So, where we are now then is, what do we do about this? It's true that our brains are changing too. to keep up with this pace. Technology and the pace of our culture are rewiring our brains. Neuroplasticity is usually thought of a good thing when our brains are adapting and changing to the situations around us. It can be a really healthy thing. Except that right now, what's happening because of technology and because of the pace of culture, it's strengthening the parts of our brain that help shift our attention quickly. It's also diminishing our brain's capacity for concentration, for reflection, for critical thinking, and for long-term memory. Um, our brain response is directly connected to our body response. I know that I struggle to sit down to read. When I sit down to read, I end up falling asleep. I can't keep my attention span going. And I think it's because of exactly this. Um, I'd like you to check out this video about this.
What happens to us if we never get bored? It turns out that when you get bored, you ignite a network in your brain called the default mode. So our body, it goes on autopilot while we're folding the laundry or we're walking to work. But actually, that is when our brain gets really busy. So this is my brain in an fMRI. And I learned that in the default mode, that is when we connect disparate ideas. We solve some of our most nagging problems. And we do something called autobiographical planning. This is when we look back at our lives, we take note of the big moments, we create a personal narrative, and then we set goals and we figure out what steps we need to take to reach them. Here's boredom researcher Dr. Sandy Mann.
Once you start daydreaming and allow your mind to really wander, you start thinking a little bit beyond the conscious, a little bit into the subconscious, which allows sort of different connections to take place. It's really awesome, actually.
But now we chill out on the couch, also while updating a Google Doc or replying to email. Here's what neuroscientist Dr. Daniel Levison says we're actually doing.
Every time you shift your attention from one thing to another, the brain has to engage a neurochemical switch that uses up nutrients in the brain to accomplish that. So if you're attempting to multitask, doing 4 or 5 things at once, you're not actually doing 4 or 5 things at once because the brain doesn't work that way. Instead, you're rapidly shifting from one thing to the next, depleting neural resources as you go.
So a decade ago, we shifted our attention at work every 3 minutes. Now we do it every 45 seconds, and we do it all day long. The average person checks email 74 times a day and switches tasks on their computer 566 times a day. Researchers at USC have found they're studying teenagers who are on social media while they're talking to their friends or they're doing homework. And 2 years down the road, they are less creative and imaginative about their own personal futures and about solving societal problems. So the next time you go to check your phone, ask yourself, what am I really looking for? Because if it's to check email, that's fine, do it and be done. But if it's to distract yourself from doing the hard work that comes with deeper thinking, take a break, stare out the window, and know that by doing nothing, you are actually being your most productive and creative self. It might feel weird and uncomfortable at first, but boredom truly can lead to brilliance.
Oh, wow.
That's great. Submerge the whole
Go
dress.
down. Go down.
The whole dress. There you
Okay,
go.
and then visor.
Yeah.
Visor on.
Make
Okay.
sure you're in there as much as you can be. Okay.
This is great.
Yep. Get in there as much as you can.
Okay,
be.
now.
So it's a lot to take in. Maybe what we really need to consider is NOMO, the necessity of missing out. So we've had an obligation to miss out on a lot of different things this year that might seem pretty big. Graduations and parties of all kinds and proms and summer vacations. even funerals. And so what has this time been for us? What has this time given us the opportunity to do and to see and to feel? What happens, what's going to happen now that we're on the verge of being able to make choices again of how we spend our time? How will you move around in the world? What have you learned that will, from this time, this weird pandemic time, that's going to help inform your choices in the future? So I have found that this has given me an opportunity to be aware of my choices. How can I use my discoveries moving forward? So what? So making the connections here, happiness for me is often synonymous with being aware. Happiness equals awareness. Being aware for all I have to be grateful for takes time, and it doesn't happen when I'm busy. Trying to take my kids when they were going to preschool, trying to take them out to the car in the morning, get them ready, all that jazz. And there was one morning where I was just like, we got to get there, guys. Let's get there. We got our, and I turned around and Luke was walking, picture the cutest 3-year-old on the planet, walking through the frost and looking back at his footprints where his footprints had melted those little ice crystals. And he was so excited about it. He could see where he walked. He could see what was happening. He could see how it was melting. And he was so excited. And he was so beautifully, really grateful for that experience. And so to take note of that and to slow down and to really be mindful. So that happiness is definitely connected for me. And then there's also this connection to there's also a connection to the health of Earth. So how do I affect the planet because of my busyness? When I'm in a rush at the grocery store, I am much more likely to spend more money by choosing things that I don't really need. And I'm also more likely to buy things that aren't good for me if I'm rushing around. There's the green triangle again. It's the green triangle. It's connecting money and health and environment. This week, I went and I bought groceries. And there were 3 items that had to go into the refrigerator. They were under some other things in a bag. I unpacked the other things, and then my boys came home and I got distracted. And in the morning, I found that I had wasted that food. I never got it to the refrigerator and to the freezer. And I felt horrible. It's exactly what we've been talking about: food waste and money waste and time waste and energy waste. And I did it all in that moment when I was in a rush, when I was not slowing down, when I was not being mindful. And so, what a waste. And yet this lesson will stand out to me for a long, long time to come. slowing down, finding out where things come from, being a mindful consumer can be really powerful. We'll come back to those another time. The other day, I was searching for a bedtime story to read to my boys, and I picked up a book. It was entitled something along the lines of Invitation for Coffee and Cake by the Racing Snails. It was about a normal little snail who was invited for coffee and cake by the racing snails. And the only problem was that the ordinary snail was an ordinary snail. He wasn't a racing snail. And he just enjoyed being himself, an ordinary snail. He could have rushed to get to the coffee and cake, but the point was that it was kind of far away. And so he decided that he would go. So he hit the road and went off on his adventure. And on the way, he passed through a field of fresh greens, fresh growing lettuce. And he thought, oh, this is so good. And so he stopped to eat and to enjoy. And he thought, oh no, I'm going to be late. But then it was just too good to pass up. And he was a little tired, so he found a perfect place to nap before he continued on his journey. And when he did arrive, it was too late. He had missed out on the party, and the other snails were long gone already. The cake was eaten and the coffee was gone. And a little bug walking by wondered why the snail was looking so happy and content, even though he had missed out on this gathering. And the snail said, it didn't matter. I can now enjoy the journey back and not be in a rush. It's going to be nicer to go back the way I came and enjoy. And so what happens if we choose to move our own ways, to move mindfully in the world that is a way that's our own? What about you? Are you living in the present moment, or are you passing through your own life? Maybe you're wishing for something to be different, or wishing for what's ahead. What happens if we open to the opportunities we have now? So you might want to jot this down. No matter what has just happened or what will come in the future, why miss the full experience of the present moment? Remember back to the intern candidates? What do you enjoy doing in your free time? It's all free time. Every moment is your choice of how you spend that moment. It's all free time. Every single moment is free time. This is your pack back reflection for this week. I'd like you to reflect on this quote by Annie Dillard. How we spend our days is how we spend our lives. Thanks for being with me today. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm grateful for them, and I hope that you have a beautiful day.